In Builder of Cities, the relationship between Edith Farnsworth and Mies was unfortunately glossed over. It's really infamous in the architecture world because many suspect an affair had gone on, which had eventually soured. But the house actually became a battleground for all modern architecture because Edith Farnsworth came out against the design and the architect. We asked many of the interviewees about this. They suggested that if there was an affair, it was a very well kept secret. Kevin Harrington, Professor Emeritus of Architectural History at IIT, tells the full story, uncut. Mies and Edith Farnsworth, what was their relationship?
It was, initially, it was friendly, and it became almost professional. And Edith Farnsworth was a nephrologist, that is to say, she was a medical doctor. She was a physician who was on the research staff at the Northwestern University Medical School, and nephrology is the study of the kidney. So this is a very, we tend to rely on our kidneys. So she was a distinguished person. That a woman had that kind of position in that time indicates just how hardworking and ambitious she was. The story goes that she met Mies at a cocktail party or a dinner in the early 1940s. She had recently learned that she would be receiving a bequest and thought that she would want to use those resources, and the number that's usually given is around $10,000, that she would use those resources to build a country house for herself. And at this dinner, she and Mies talked, and she said something on the order, I'm thinking of building a country house, and he said something on the order of, I'd be happy to do it for you. Like, architects are always thinking positively. And soon thereafter, it wasn't just talk, it became a design. And Mies started to design the building in late 45, early 1946. But they also knew that the bequest wouldn't take place until around 1950. So they both knew that this was a project that would be slow to develop or be finalized, and it would give them an opportunity to really think about what was wanted. Very soon, the idea of a pavilion, and she already had the piece of land also in Plano along the side of the Fox River. Very soon, the idea of the building on 2 levels, with the upper level being the living level, the lower level being a kind of a porch or intermediate zone, facing the river, made of steel and glass, not unlike the other buildings he was building in Chicago, was agreed to. And also fairly early on, that the cost of the building might be greater than that initial bequest was also understood and agreed to. Edith Farnsworth became so interested in the problem of architectural design that she began to go into Mies's office on Saturdays. In those days, architects, people in most businesses, worked 6 days a week. Some of them would take off at noon in the summer and go swimming, but a 5.5, 6-day week was pretty standard. And so she would come into the office on Saturdays, because her practice as a physician was only 5 days, I guess. And she was so interested, she actually set up a drawing board in the office, and she learned how to make architectural drawings. Now, this kind of fits with other aspects of her character. She had been, as a young woman, an accomplished violinist, and had thought about a career as a violin virtuoso. And she came to realize she wasn't quite good enough for a solo career, but that's to say she's pretty good. So she then forms this relationship with Mies, which, so far as I can figure, was always friendly, but never romantic. Some people are inclined to think it must have been, but I'm not sure. The evidence seems to be mostly that it was more professional than otherwise, in part because Mies already had a romantic attachment in Chicago, so that it's unlikely that he would have had two. So, but he continues to work on this project with her. She comes into the office regularly, and as the costs increase and stuff, this is something that is talked about and becomes the basis of then going ahead. The building was completed, it was in all the magazines, it was very highly admired. And then she began, for whatever reasons, it's not quite clear, there was a dispute. There ended up being a trial about Mies getting his fee. Mies won, Mies was awarded his fee. But the relationship fell apart, and so Mies did not visit the house after it was constructed, although he visited the building site regularly while it was under construction. He paid enormously close attention to the building. This is one of those projects that he really, really, really wanted to see were done well. And so he did that. But the relationship, as far as I can see, and from the evidence that includes talking to the person who was Mies's project architect on this project, is that the relationship was friendly, but also professional.